Welcome everyone to Coaches Uncoached. Today I'm interviewing Nishe Patel for our usual The Journey of a Coach in Creating a Successful Practice. Welcome Nishe, how are you doing?
Hi, yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. That was take 3 for me, wasn't it? So I'm just kind of
We
reeling
got
off the back of how I forgot to introduce everyone. But we're there now, so all good.
there.
How's it going over there?
It's good. I'm like looking out my window going, it's gorgeous and sunny out here. And sort of it's cold, but it's nice. It looks good out there.
Yeah, crisp autumn days. So before we dive into all these interesting topics that you kind of you had a preamble about last week, it'd be really great to hear about, I guess, your coaching practice in terms of what is it, what type of coach are you, and what does your business look like?
Okay, cool. So I describe myself as an integrative coach, essentially pulling together lots of different tools, techniques, schools of thought, and just moving and weaving through them as supports the client I'm working with. So no set approaches, no specific clients I work with at the moment, nicheless in some ways, and just very much moving at the moment. In terms of my practice, a relatively small private practice and something I'm looking to work on in the next year. Most of my work comes from what I call associate work. So working through other organizations. So they have the client relationships, they connect to the clients, and then I work with who signs up to work with them. So work with about, I think it's now about 5 or 6 different organizations. And it just means that I have a consistency of flow of work. I've got lovely variety. And the great thing about the organizations I work with is that there's no set hours or commitment. So if I decide, hey, I want to take some time off, I just take it off and slow down my work. Or if I need a bit extra, or I'm like, they're going, oh, money's getting a bit tight, I can up my levels as well. So I've got this lovely flexibility too.
Nice. Oh, I'd love to talk a bit more about the associate coaching then, as we get into this. And also you're a trainer for Animas, right?
Yes. Oh gosh, can't believe it. I'm like they're
I
going
forgot to
completely
say it as
missing
well.
that. No. So yes, I'm a trainer for Animas, and I also do supervision work with the sister school of ICCS. So I support there, and yes, that leads to, in terms of my own practice, I am a supervisor. I am an ICF mentor up to PCC level, and in theory, launching an NLP program for coaches next year. So it's all kind of in the pipeline, but things feel stable at long last, so that I can feel like I can move into that creative growth space now.
Nice. Okay. So you're at this level of stability now, and now you're looking to create and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Scary to say that because I thought that's what I was doing for the past 6 years, but now it feels very grounded as a business, that I'm not worrying about it. Whereas before there's always like, oh, is this going to quite work? Is it going to happen? But it feels very, very stable now. And so, yeah, it's good grounding to go forward.
Nice. Sounds like a great platform. Just so if I kind of recap on that then. So you're a coach, you work one-to-one with clients. You don't really have a niche, particular topics that you work on. You do a lot of work with associate coach hubs, 4 or 5 different hubs.
Yeah.
And then you're also a trainer and a supervisor. Nice.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot, but I'm like, they're going, it sounds like a lot, but it's not. I have very spacious days, surprisingly. So it's amazing to think that I do all of those things, but I have a lot of time just to live my life as well.
That's nice to hear. So business is doing well then.
It feels like it. Like, I don't want to jinx it. Like, it's good, but you never know what's going to happen. But because I've diversified in terms of a variety of different organizations, if something fell away or something didn't quite happen, I know that the others would be able to manage, like I'd have the income enough to support myself so I can rebuild. So I guess, yeah, it's a diversified portfolio of clients.
Makes sense. Yeah, lots of different strings to the bow. Keeps everything safe. Before we kind of dive into some of those topics that came up there, what's your kind of potted history in terms of what were you doing before you trained as a coach? What was your motivation to looking into coaching? Sorry, compound question there.
That's all right. So I had a corporate career, worked in graduate recruitment and development for about 10 years across a broad range of employers. I was in financial services, retail, real estate, legal, IT, like a huge range, and even media and entertainment, like loads of different things. And I was very keen to move across to learning and development. And I thought, hey, coaching will support me make that transition. Signed up to do the Animas course. I was in between contracts, so I was a contractor at the time, and had a massive transformation as part of the course. So I was that person who wanted to participate in a demo. Trainer asked very simple questions that I didn't even notice. And then there's me in floods of tears. Just something huge has come out. I just have a space to go. And suddenly I'm like, they go, whoa, that's possible in 10 minutes. There's something here for me. And it wasn't expected. It wasn't what I thought I would do. But from there, I was like, you know what, let me carry on this journey. Went into further training with the NLP and hypnotherapy, continued that, went down the route of EFT just to see, you know, add a bit more learning. And as that progressed, things naturally started to come my way, which was just amazing. And so what's so interesting for me is to be in a career that I love. And it is a career 6 years down the line, whereas my old career, I was struggling to figure out how I could stay in it. I just didn't have the connection. And I think I moved so much because I was looking for newness and excitement and engagement. And with this, it just is always new and it's always engaging. And I can't imagine myself doing anything else now. And I'm not even looking for anything else. So it's been a beautiful revelation to have found it and to have been lucky enough to build it into a career and into a business.
Yeah, I often speak to coaches who are just so committed to that lifelong journey, and it is exciting, right? And even when I speak to prospective coaches at the start of their journey, the idea of all the things that you can add into a coaching practice, the level of variety and like that constant process, I guess, of personal and professional development, it really stands out as an exciting career, right?
It's so fascinating. Like, so I was doing some training this last weekend and someone said something about how I measure my success or something along those lines. And I was like, it's not that anymore. The internal drive to continually develop is what keeps me going. And I didn't see that coming. Like, I'm a coach, that's what I help people do, right? Transformative coaching, that's what we're doing. But I didn't realize it until it suddenly hit me that I was like so much more driven by this continued me development, that the career just naturally, and being a coach naturally supports that. And so I have the space, I hate to say it, coaching and self-actualize. I get the opportunity to keep moving towards reaching my potential. Don't think I'll ever quite get there, but I can keep moving towards it.
Yeah, I don't know if there was ever a destination for that, right?
I hope not. I hope that I don't ever go, oh yeah, great, reach my potential. Like, because like it always feels like I'd be on the edge of a cliff going, and now what? You know, I think there's, every time we grow, there's something else for us to move towards. And I kind of like, I'm surprised at how much I do like that.
And you mentioned all these other elements as well to your practice, or perhaps they sit distinct from your practice about hypnotherapy, NLP, EFT.
It's so interesting. Like, as I've grown as a practitioner, so many of those modalities you sit so uniquely separately. So I'm either doing hypnotherapy or I'm doing NLP with hypnotherapy. But now it all blends together. That's a true integrative approach for me, is that I will flow from coaching it into the use of hypnotherapy techniques, NLP techniques and approaches. It just kind of blends together. And it's, although I can decipher what I'm doing if I reflect back on it, in the moment, I'm simply combining things as they come up. So do it reflectively, usually in the moment, it's an unconscious choice, and it's all just there.
And did you consciously at the start of your training journey think, okay, this is what I want to do? I want to add in hypnotherapy, NLP, I want to become a trainer and a supervisor? Or is this stuff that kind of happened along the way?
Like, I wish I could have seen this to be able to know it was coming, right? A lot of it happened by chance. And was it happy chance all the time? Possibly not. Right. And I guess what I mean by that is when I first started my training, I was a very different person. I was very much a follower. I was easily guided by other people, or even for some instances, and manipulated by others to fit into what they wanted. And that meant that when people shared ideas of what they were doing, I was so easily drawn into going, oh, that sounds great, I'll do that too, right? I just followed other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. And it got me to where I am. Like, it really helped. But so I can't say it was ever a choice that I went, I'll do this, I'll do that. The NLP and hypnotherapy program came about because someone I knew was going to do it, and they mentioned it to me. And I was like, oh, sounds great. I want to learn from that person. I'll do it too. You know, it led to me leaving my job because I didn't have the capacity to do that course and my full-time job. And suddenly I'm committing to something without even knowing where I'm going with it. But possibly one of the best decisions I ever made. So yeah, never had a plan for it. And I know as coaches, we help people figure out their goals. But my goal is to keep growing, being open to the opportunities, because along the way, I've said no to opportunities that would have been amazing. And there's regret with some of the choices I've made. But had I taken them, I don't know if I'd be here. I don't think I'd have the opportunities I have now if I'd taken those other things. I think I just would have gone, oh, I'm safe and secure, I just do this. So I think I've made mistakes. I could have done certain things. I've been lucky enough to have people to challenge me to take opportunities that I might have turned my back on. And I don't know if this even makes sense, but it feels like, although I could go, this is what I want to achieve, that's not how I operate. It's more of me achieving what I want in my business is by being open to the opportunities, engaging in them, and then knowing when to walk away. And that's where I think my business will ebb and flow, is that I will probably take on a lot of opportunities that possibly aren't right for me, but I'll also know when to step away from them as well.
I guess that's something you've learned across that 5 or 6 years, is it, of knowing what to walk away from and knowing what to engage with?
Yeah, but I still get it wrong, right? I still get it so wrong. Or it feels like I get it wrong at some points when I look back. But I'm getting better at it.
And have you got any examples of things that you've perhaps made mistakes with, or stuff that you shouldn't have engaged with?
So, and this will be probably a bit controversial with some people. I worked with a mentor really early on, and I think it's great working with mentors. I think they add such incredible value to people developing their businesses. But I chose to work with a mentor before I knew me and knew what I wanted in my business. So it's only now that I'm getting clarity over what I want in my business, and therefore having someone help me create that makes sense. What I needed in the beginning for me was more of a coach and someone to help me work through it and help me determine what this would look like and perhaps what I wanted for myself. And so that was possibly one of the first mistakes I made, and it cost me a decent amount of money, but I learned from that now, and now can recognize when I want different kinds of support and how to go about finding it. So it hurts at the time in terms financially, it really hurts, but it also taught me massively, and I'm rather I did it at that point than do it now when I possibly invest even more money in that. So that's one of the mistakes. Another was earlier this year, signing up to work with an organization, and because of that, need to be a limited company. So switched across to a limited company, signed up, was about to start really working with them. And then another opportunity came up, and I was like, oh, this other one feels like a better fit. And when I wrote to that first company, say, hey, apologies, look, didn't want it to be this way, but this other thing's come up, I have to trust that. And then I never heard from them. No acknowledgement, nothing else. Okay, probably made the right decision walking away from this one. And so, although it was a bit of a mistake possibly signing up to them in the beginning, the decision to walk away probably was the right decision in the end.
And can I just jump back one stage when you talk about working with a mentor and a coach? What I'm assuming is when you say mentor, you're talking about a business mentor. So you worked with someone to support you building your business at the start. But actually what you're saying you needed to work with a coach to figure out who you were, perhaps your emerging identity as a coach, or what your niche or not niche was. What does that look like?
Yeah, it almost like to help me decipher what I wanted to create. I think for me, the business coach I'd engaged was very much about taking action and creation. And like as we were talking about, like I'm only just reaching the stage where I'm ready for that. And so now engaging someone to go, right, I need help to get me going on this and really support me to take action here, feels so right. Whereas before I was being encouraged to take action, and I was like, oh, we'll do all, it was just never, I wasn't clear about what it was that I wanted to create or what we were aiming to do together. And so it was very scattergun and then there was always a sense of I'm not getting anywhere because I'm meant to be doing this stuff, but I don't know how to do it. And like, it just kept me very stuck, when actually a coach probably would have gone, so tell me about you trying to do this. What's going on for you as you attempt to do this? What's happening for you? What alignment do you have to this? It just really diving into some of my resistance, some of what was happening for me, and help me unlock what I really wanted to do. And so if I think right back to the beginning, I thought I had to create a niche. So I went with the grad recruitment stuff and helping young people in their careers, or helping parents figure out how they can support their kids as they make those decisions. Like, that's not what I want to do. I've just left a career in that. I clearly don't want to do this. But I thought I had to use my past career within the coaching. And it was just, I was just going around in circles, a bit like this, like explained it out. I was just going around in circles, and it would have helped to probably have a coach to help me unpick it.
That's really interesting, because most of the people I speak to on these interviews, or a lot of people I see in the coaching industry, they lean back into their old skill sets, into their old ways of working. And obviously you trained me, and I mentioned how, there's this, I put trainers on a pedestal, like, they've got their stuff sorted out, they know what their business is going to be. To hear you say you're only at a place now after, is it 5 or 6 years?
So I did the Animas course in 2016, so it's 6 years from the start of the course.
Yeah, to hear you say that's now that where you're at is I guess different, but an interesting journey. And you've also not stuck to a niche, you say.
No, and it was really interesting, because I thought I had to have a niche to be able to market it, to be able to get clients, right? So the moment I went to the associate work, I'm no longer having to worry about the marketing. And the associate work suddenly opens me up to a variety of different clients. And what has been incredible about that is that it's pushed my skill set as a coach, because I've had to develop far more flexibility. I've had to become sharper at spotting things. I've got to be able to flex how I do that for different kinds of clients, and I can't lean back on knowledge or experience or expertise, because I have to work with that person as they show up in front of me. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think I've become a better coach for it. And had I found a niche that worked and I could market it, I don't know if I would have the skill set I have now. And that's not to say it's not right for other people. I think it's great if that works for you and you can build business off it. And I think that's amazing. Boy, do I want to learn how you do it. But I can look at the experience and go, oh, it's not what I wanted. Or I can go, hey, look what I've got. And I'm able to see this incredible stuff. And like I said, so grateful for those opportunities.
And it makes complete sense. Often I would suggest to new coaches about to embark on training, coach as many different people on as many different topics, right? Because that develops us as coaches. So what I'm hearing is, I guess, the benefit of not niching for you and going into this associate work is the fact that you don't choose who you work with, you don't choose the topics. Whereas if you are niching, you kind of do, right? And that does make it a bit clearer when you're speaking into the marketplace. But I think my understanding is that you're not so much into the marketing side of things anyway. So this associate coaching work fits for you.
It does right now. I'm working with someone at the moment who is going to kick my butt in terms of developing my private practice. And I think it's important for me to now do this, to prove, like, there's something about proving to myself that I can do it, because I keep saying to myself, oh, I don't get marketing, or I can't do that, it's not my thing. And yeah, that's fine. Look, that's been all right up until this point. But yeah, I'm sure I can do that. And inside me, I know it's possible. So I'm holding back on it for a reason. And that's possibly where my next growth is as a person, is to go after developing my business and really put myself out there and really going right up to the edge of my comfort zone and pushing on that. And I'm sort of there going, it must be possible. Other people can do it. And I'm not saying I can suddenly do what everyone else can do, but I have the skill, I've got experience, I've got background. Now's the time to really kind of see if it's possible. Like, talk to me in a year's time and I might be going, yeah, that was a bad experiment, really shouldn't have done that. But life's full of experiments, right? It feels like the right time to do this one.
Entrepreneurship surely is full of experiments, right? That's how we build.
Yeah, and
so have you met? Sorry, go on. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say, I just remembered, like, yes, I'm saying I'm ready to do this. Like, let's remember, like, when I first started to help, I tried so many different things in terms of marketing. Like, I tried videos and figuring out YouTube and Insta and Facebook and LinkedIn. Like, I have this vast amount of knowledge over all those things. And so this isn't me just going, right, now I'm going to do it. I tried stuff, it didn't work, I moved on, and I now feel ready to re-go into that. So it's not going backwards, but I feel more stable and confident in myself to take it forward. So it's not a zero base. And I think that's the other thing to recognize, is that if I suddenly start building out this business, like there's been 6 years of heartache and messing around with concepts and social media and all these other things that are coming together now. But it might, if people looked at it externally, it might feel like I've just suddenly come out of nowhere. But it's not. It's years of not getting it right, or getting some things right, or figuring out what works for me, what doesn't work for me, what I like doing, what I don't like doing. So I can now, if I look at what I want to do, to be able to go, yeah, I like doing some of this stuff, don't like doing the other stuff. How do we do things in a way that's right for me?
So when you say you don't like doing some stuff, what are you talking about specifically?
I don't like videos. I can't believe I'm doing this, right? I don't like the effort it takes for me to edit the videos and the additional work it takes off the back of it. So, and it used to take me so much time to get my setup, do my lighting, all of that stuff. I don't wear makeup, you know, there's a lot more that in prep that, and the after side of it, that I just don't want to do. Like I know how to now, but I just don't like it. Actually, creating the video, fine. But when we see these videos online, there's a bit more polish to it, you know. And so if I really want to do it in terms of marketing and engagement, it will take that extra effort. And that's not for me. But writing short prose or short commentary, using visuals, yeah, I'm on board with that. So in terms of content, I have a view of what I want to do. In terms of platforms, I'm not a fan of Facebook. It's not my thing. I like Instagram, but I haven't really figured it out. I think my platform's likely to be LinkedIn. You know, I feel a great connection to it now. But it's that kind of thing. So I know what I don't like, or things that take, and I can't take on too much, otherwise it's overwhelming. So it's going to have to be a really simple approach for it to work for me.
I get this real sense that you've had to really learn a lot about yourself to create, or to even be in a position to create the business that you want. And having said that, I look at you as someone who has created a successful coaching practice. You're independent in some way or another, right? You're a supervisor, a trainer, you do your associate coaching work. But here we are talking like you're at the start of a journey, or just another journey.
It feels like it. I don't often feel that I'm successful in that sense. Like, and don't get me wrong, I've finally got my earnings up to my London days, right? And I was earning really nice money then. So in terms of the financials, that's how you measure success, yeah, great. But it's weird, and I don't feel successful, but I think it's because I don't know what success is. So when people say success was successful, I have this view of someone working in a high rise in London, because that was my childhood view of what success was. And I definitely don't do that. I work from my home by the Kent coast. I work online. Like, it's not my understanding of success. And so that probably needs to be updated massively.
And you also choose your own hours, right?
Yeah. I probably work every day. It's rare for me to have a day off completely, but it also would feel, I think, on the occasions where I have had a complete day off, it's felt weird. And so even when I say I work every day, it might be the odd coaching session. It might be because I'm creating content for like workshops, or I'm putting stuff together, or I'm preparing for, say, an interview for some associate work, right? Or I'm preparing for a meeting. There's always a bit of work to be done, but it feels right for me to operate in that way.
So you're at this point in your career where you're about to develop and grow it.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, you've kind of developed an independent coaching practice already. That's full-time in salary. We're looking at that as success, and also diary-wise. What is it about you that's helped you do that across the 6 years? Like, what have you done that perhaps other people might not have done, that haven't created a practice that they wanted to?
It's so funny. I always go, hey, I've just been really lucky, right? But if I really look at it, it's about relationships. And I always thought I wasn't good at networking, or I wasn't good at holding relationships or engaging with people. Like, honestly, when I think of myself as a coach, I'm like, how does that even work? But it's relationships. It's where the opportunities have come from, where people have sort of gone, hey, would you be open to this? Have you thought about this? Have you seen this opportunity? So there are very few opportunities where I've gone out and gone, I'm going to apply to that and I'm going to get that. It's been more about, oh, you're someone I get on with, I'm going to stay in contact with you. And we end up talking and engaging, and it leads to opportunities. So for me, it's weird to think about that, because I would never see myself in that position. But that's probably what's made the difference for me, is the relationships. And by the way, not relationships where I've gone, oh, I'll curate this relationship and it will turn into something, right? That's just never worked for me. But more that I've genuinely wanted to be connected to people, and that's led to genuine opportunities afterwards.
Thanks for clarifying on that last bit, because that was my next question. So I guess you're not doing that strategically. It's organic.
Massively. And it's kind of, and I think that's the change in my business now, is that I do probably have to be a bit more strategic with it and more thoughtful about the relationships I do build, them to still be very genuine relationships. But for me to go, right, wait a second, if I want to create something, what are the relationships that might support that? And how do I do that, but in a way that is very connected and genuine? And yeah, I like, what's popped into my head is that some of these relationships have fallen away, and I miss them. I genuinely miss them. But I also recognize that people grow, and sometimes that growth takes us apart and then might bring us back together later on. And that's also part of it.
I kind of want to recap on what I'm hearing, just so I can kind of put stuff down to create a territory. So I get you've got a portfolio career, you don't niche, you're an integrative coach that uses lots of different modalities, and a big part of building your business has been building relationships, experimenting, trying different things. But at the fundamental level, it's really knowing yourself and learning about yourself to figure out what's going to work for you. Would that be a fair summary of kind of what we spoke about?
Yeah. Nicely done, Brinsley. Like that's as soon as you can summarize it. Yeah, spot on.
Nice. I feel that sometimes I need to get stuff stuck down on the territory. So I'm glad I'm following. And it's really interesting to hear this kind of journey, because often I speak to people who decide on their niche at the start and go for it, or their one-to-one coaching, or they've got their practice how they want it after 5 or 6 years. And of course it's a moving piece, but what I'm hearing from you is a real another step that's about to happen now, or a pivot, if you like.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm so impressed by those people. I like sit there in awe of them going, wow, like, because it's just not who I am. But I love that other people can do that. And I'm so impressed by it.
Well, this is perfect because we obviously spoke about the heartache of comparison. So now the fact that you're talking about this brings me on to kind of that subject. Yeah. And I think I see it in my own business building and coach profession, comparing myself to other people all the time, online, trainers, other coaches. And I'm sure it happens for anyone going through a training journey or building a business. What did that look like for you? Because this was a topic you mentioned as something that we could talk about.
Yeah, so I think there's the negative form of comparison where we go, hey, which often has a form of envy attached to it, which I have experienced, and like I still sometimes experience, where I see what other people are doing. I'm like, how do they manage to do that? I want that. Why can't I have that? How do I create that? And then I get distracted by what it is that they're doing, and that creating the thing that I think I want. And then there's the form of comparison for me, where you look at what someone else is doing, you're able to genuinely respect and acknowledge something that they're doing that's incredible, but also to be able to step back and go, that bit of what you're doing, that's the thing I want to be able to do. And to be able to learn from them and to see what they do that's really wonderful. And then to go, if I want to do something like that, how would I do it in a way that connects to the person that I am? So it's not a replication or trying to be someone else, because each person will do it their own way. And every time I've tried to achieve what other people have done by doing what they did, it hasn't quite worked, because it hasn't been right for me at that time, or it hasn't been the right approach for me. But when I sort of go, oh, you're doing something really cool there, what bit of that do I like? And then to focus in on that and go, right, how do I start doing that thing my way? I make a lot more progress. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. It's so easy, isn't it, to just replicate if we see someone doing something that we want or we like the outcome of it. I'm sure we're all guilty of that as we build a coaching practice. I know I am.
Completely. And it takes so much energy to do it in a way that's not ours. And so for me, well, what happened for me was I ended up wasting a lot of energy. But had I not gone through that, I wouldn't have realized that that's what I was doing. To be able to then make the shift, to be able to go, right, if I'm wanting what they have, what within me is wanting that, and to bring it back to mine. And it's been such a journey for me to be able to look at what other people do and to genuinely be so happy for them, because I'm learning to let go of that piece, that envy piece, and wanting what they have. And yes, I think there's still more for me, but I love what people have achieved, and I can celebrate that with them now without going, hey, what about me? It's human, right? Like, it sounds so weird, but it's so human. And other people can do it far more easily than I can, right? I see other people who genuinely can just be really going, oh, that's amazing. But there's always been a part of me that's had that envy piece and that jealousy piece. And that's changed. And it's so much easier now for me to go for the things that I want, because I'm not constantly going, but I want what they have.
What do you think the thing was that helped you change?
I am incredibly lucky to be surrounded by coaches who call me out. And they do. And they are good friends who are coaches and will see or hear something in me and they will call me out on it. And that's what makes such a difference for me, is that if there's such trust in those relationships that if they do it, as much as I might resist it, if they're calling it out, they're seeing something, and I can trust that. And so because of the relationship, I can't hide from it. And I think that's what's made such a big difference, is being open to those challenges.
So those relationships are coming back to help you again, right?
Yeah, it's for someone who didn't think they were good at relationships, it's a massive part of what keeps this business going.
And when you say the coaches, and some of them that are peers or colleagues, maybe I'm at the word colleague and I'm not sure, are they actually coaching you, or are they just part of your circle and they're just used to calling people out as a coach might do?
So they're friends. Okay, they're definitely people I would consider friends. And are they coaching me? No, we're not in a coaching relationship, but they're coaches. Or they've got other training and they're skilled at asking the questions. And I can hear the coaching question. I know what they're doing. And so there is, it's a very conscious thing between us. It's not hidden. They're not trying to be smart or clever. It's just coming from a very genuine place. And I'm grateful that they're skilled, and I'm grateful that they can spot those things and that they're willing to share them with me. And like let's be clear, like they're not going to do it for everything. Like they are sensitive to me as a person and me being their friend. But yeah, I don't get away with stuff like I used to because of them.
Feedback is a gift, right?
Yeah, and it hurts. It hurts sometimes, but it's amazing.
Well, I can see you've really worked with that feedback, and also you've tuned into it yourself and noticing, like you say, reflecting back on, I guess, the joy and heartache of comparison and figuring out what it is that you actually like about this person or this coach, what they're doing, and how is it going to work for you. So I love that take on it, rather than just replicating, because more often than not that doesn't work.
It doesn't work for me. I'll be super honest and say it probably does work for other people, but it just hasn't for me.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. Maybe I'll make an assumption there that doesn't work for everyone.
And I think that's the tricky thing, is that we hear what people say we should do, what's worked for them, and we can feel that that's the magic bullet. And it might be for some people. For some people, that's it, and it works and it's amazing and off they go. But for other people, it's a combination of approaches, or it's a journey that we need to go on before we can implement that approach successfully. And you don't know until you try.
Another topic that I wanted to cover with you is about what your clients taught you. It was one of your suggestions, and I think it's such an interesting one, because sometimes, I don't know about you, do you ever get through a session and think, maybe I should be paying you for this?
Yeah, like I was like, oh, look at all the revelations that come out of this one, right? Yeah, I often feel, for the vast majority of my clients, even the ones that I haven't chosen, so who've come through the associate work, that we're meant to work together for a reason. And I don't go in there going, oh, what's in it for me and what am I going to learn about myself, but more that I'm open to hearing what they say and how they express things that might connect to something that I'm working on, or something that's important to me, and hearing their perspective on it can be massive for my learning. So sometimes it will be that I'm working with a client and I do something and they have a poor response to it, and I'm like, oh, okay, like, so that's learning about my skill set and what I do, and or they have an incredible response. I'm like, oh wow, right, I hadn't quite realized that's what it did, and so I can tap it into the skill set more. But more often than not, it's that they will say something, or they'll make a connection or an interpretation along the way that sings to a part of me that continues my development. So to give you an example of this, recently I worked with a client, first session we had together, they've been through some incredible stuff in their lives, and they've started this journey of self-growth and self-development, and they are moving through it so rapidly, but in such a very grounded way, in a beautiful way, like it's amazing to see. And within that, I'm having to catch myself from offering things or giving them watch outs, because it's their journey, and it's just brought into such stark realization for me that even if I've been on a journey, the person going through it will be on a different one. And I know it sounds so obvious, and it's so what we do as coaches, but it was such a strong reminder of it that now I'm like, they're going, wow, well, wait a second, what's in this for me to learn about how I influence other people's journeys? And what role am I playing in that? And how do I ensure that they can go on their journey and choose what I offer them or not, you know? And I think, again, so that's now becoming a thread within my development of what is my influence, and how do I continue to be me as the coach, but perhaps be more considerate of that influence.
I love that. I recently just wrote an essay, and I was talking about the 3 different journeys that are sometimes happening in the space. And one was the client's journey, my personal development journey, and then my development as a coach.
Yeah.
And they're 3 distinct things, but often they merge, right? You can't help them merging. But noticing it and understanding it gives us a bit more, I guess, knowledge about what's at play here. And you're saying you're sort of pulling those other 2 personal journeys back. Is that what you're saying?
I'm being mindful not to influence their journey based, like, so I will always influence because that's part of the connection in the relationship. It's going to be there, but be mindful of the impact of my influence on them. And so I think in this, I don't know the best way to explain it. So in this very particular scenario, they were saying things and I was like, oh, wait a second, oh, this could be a bit tricky if you carry on down that route. But equally going, yeah, but that's your journey. So rather than going, hey, watch out, I named what I was experiencing and going, these are things I want to share with you, but I also don't want to influence your journey, and to allow them the choice in that more so. So we ask for permission, we offer, right? But this now is, and I think this has been happening for me for a bit of time, is like giving client choice on what I might offer.
Makes sense.
It's different, right? And I haven't quite mastered it. And I think it will take me a while to master, to say, hey, I've got these different things that I could offer you here. Like, you can't give them all of that because then you already put it into the space. But how do you give them choice over what they could get from you? But anyway,
No, I'm following you now. And as I follow you, I'm also conscious that I've kind of dived into a bit of theory there as well. And I just kind of wanted to bring it. Well, that was me actually going down that tangent. And I guess the question came from, I guess, the fun parts of developing a coaching practice, learning off our clients and those relationships we have. If I was going to try to build on that with you, when you look at the journey that you've been on and this practice you've built so far, what do you look at as the fun parts, the most exciting bits of that?
That's so hard to answer. Why is that so hard? I don't know how to answer that. Wow, okay, wait a second. I think it's the most bit. That's the tricky bit for me. And the reason it's the most is because there isn't a most in it. I guess that it's everything I have currently in my portfolio, I will happily do. There's not a piece of work that comes my way that I take on that I go, oh, I've got to do that. Like, I might have moments of struggle, I might have moments of how to work through it, or, you know, having to do my invoice is not my favorite bit. But I kind of like it all. And even the invoices, I'm not being funny, but hey, I'm going to get paid. But also it's admin, right? So if I'm like, I need to show myself, say to myself, like, right, you're making progress. The admin is just a really nice way for me to tick things off a list and to feel a sense of achievement. So I kind of like it all and enjoy it all. Now, this could change when I start doing stuff in my own practice, because that's going to be super challenging for me. And I don't know if I will really like the marketing, but I'm hoping I'm going to find stuff that I really like. I think previously, when I was there going, right, I've got to write blogs and I've got to put stuff on social media and I've got to do this and I've got to do that, it was all the got tos. And I don't have those got tos at the moment. I have the I want to and I get to. And I think that's where the key difference is that there's not a got to or have to at the moment, which is really weird to say, because I'm kind of like checking myself. I think that's, I can't spot them.
Well, that's great. That's great that you're in a position now that is all fun.
Yeah,
and enjoyable.
It's weird, but yes, it is. Like, I'm actually like in this moment going, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Very lucky.
And if you were to look back at yourself starting your training,
mm-hmm.
and what advice would you give yourself looking back?
Stop seeing it as a checklist. Take the time to discover, to play with it, to fall over. I think in the early days, it was like, right, I've got to, right, it's totally got to, I've got to do my hours, I've got to attend these things, I've got to do this reading. There wasn't, I hadn't felt the connection to the coaching, but I wish I'd taken the time to develop that earlier. And to be able to engage in the training for everything it is. Because I know that towards the end of my course, I was feeling tired of it. And I think some of that was my growth journey, but I just couldn't take it in. And so I wish I'd taken the time and energy to go to each training module, to each coaching session with the openness of what I would get there and what I could do there. And yeah, that is a regret, right? I don't get to do the course again. Although I train it, I don't get to experience it again as a student. And I wish I had done it slightly differently.
Yeah, I love the idea of looking at it always as an experiment or a bit of a playground, particularly when it comes to the craft of coaching and learning that piece. And when you say checklist, are you talking about the business building side of it, or are you talking about the development side of it as well, turned into a bit of a checklist for you?
So I didn't get the development stuff. I didn't understand it for a very long time. I think for me, it was a checklist of things that I had to do. So the things I had to do to get each qualification, or the things I had to learn, or the skills that I had to master. It was like a bit of a checklist rather than it being a truly immersive experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably wasn't in a space to do that. I think that's the complexity of it, is back then I didn't have the ability to do that necessarily. But it's almost like if I did the course now, I would show up to it differently.
It's always interesting to see what we do differently when we look back, right?
Yeah.
And if you applied that same question to the business building element of your practice,
Yeah.
what would you say to that then?
To not be so single-minded about what I thought I wanted. Because although I didn't predict this, it's such a great fit for me, this way of being, way of operating. But I think I was overly single-minded on this is how you create business, and this is what you need to do, and this is what's, this is what success is in this world. And I think it took me off track, and it also closed me off to opportunities that could have been amazing. But just being, if I'd just been a bit open, and I found, I wish I had my current people, I wish I'd had them back then as well, but I had the voices that I could trust as well to bounce ideas around with, and voices that weren't in it, like might not have been in it for themselves, and might not have overly powered, but really engaged and checked in with me. Yeah, I think that's what would be different. Yeah, had I had the relationships and not been single-minded, I guess.
And when I hear you describe that, I'm joining some dots together, and I'm making some assumptions, and they are that you went down this pathway of thinking that you had to build a one-to-one coaching practice via marketing and social media, and actually it turned out associate coaching, supervision and training was really what was going to sing to you at this moment in your development. Have I joined those dots correctly? Yeah,
completely. And I think at that time there weren't as many of these online providers as well. And God, I remember saying to someone, oh, there's no coaches in my area, and they're just like looking at me going, I don't think you've recognized what's going on around you. And I hadn't quite understood the marketplace either. I hadn't understood who was around me, the community I could build, because I'd just been like, it's me and I've got to do it. And it's, again, it was like starting to invite those voices into my thinking that has allowed me to just be open to possibilities.
And if we look at the coaching landscape now, then,
yeah,
because it's obviously different, right? Very different from when you trained, and your place in that, paying attention to it and building this practice. What's coming up for you when I throw those suggestions your way?
I think about the landscape, and I think about, so you've got a great number of organizations selling to corporates and businesses, and then bringing in coaches to then deliver that. And I get the feeling that, and they've started doing this, I do believe bigger businesses are going to bring in in-house coaches and build, and like I said, some have already started building out their coaching practices, not just for leadership, but through the levels, because it'll probably be more cost effective for them and mean that they can be more targeted, and their people delivering them are more understanding what the organization do. So for me, there's opportunities, I believe, coming down that route, but in doing so, those coaches will need development and supervision and so forth. So I think that layer of supervision practice, and also for them to deliver the group side of it, so they can deliver to a greater number of people. And that's me just going, hey, there's something I think coming, but I think a great number of these organizations will still continue. But I think the volume of them will have to diminish, because the marketplace, many of them have gone global already. So it'll be interesting to see who the big players are that remain.
You're talking about associate coaching hubs when you say that.
Yeah. Sorry. And in terms of I think there is still a place for private practice. I still think there is huge opportunity in it. And there's growing opportunity because more and more people are becoming more open to coaching as the approach to support them. So there's a lot there and a lot possible, I think. But I'm conscious, be aware that the marketplace where I think I've got my stability, it's stable for now, but I'm not convinced it will stay that way. I think some of the organisations that I'm working with will shift and change themselves. And what I want might also change. So I might choose to go in-house one day if the right opportunity came up. But I also don't feel I want to do that full time.
Yeah, like you say, I guess there's two things shifting, isn't there? There's your evolution as a practitioner and where you want to apply that, in what context, and then also the landscape itself. And that's the same with business all over, right? We have to be ready for that change, or at least have a sight of it.
And I think the other big thing that I'm sort of keeping an eye on is this integration of modality. And I think we're a way away from it, but I'm sort of there going, the overlap between different modalities, so coaching, therapy, counselling, mentoring, there's such overlap between them that I wonder if we might eventually end up in a place where it's, how do I help the person in front of me? And don't get me wrong, I think, like, I by no means do I think that I'm a trained psychiatrist or, you know, a psychoanalyst. Or a trained therapist. I'm not. But in some of this space, I feel there is a combination coming, and I'm not quite sure where that will sit.
Yeah, it's interesting you mention that, because I kind of agree with that in the sense that you want to be able to just sit in front of someone and think, well, what's the best approach here as a practitioner, right?
Yeah.
Or you want them to perhaps say, this is what I'm needing, or this is what I want. Having said that, are we doing an injustice to the distinctions between the two approaches, that to learn both, would you end up becoming just a jack of both trades rather than a master at one?
So it's a really interesting one when you say that saying in particular. So I learned last year that that's not the complete saying. It's a jack of all trades is a master of none, but better than a master of one. And that, and like, because that sings to me so much more, right? Like, it's, I'm not a therapist, but I have therapeutic practice in my training. I'm a coach, but I'm not an executive coach or a business coach. I'm a broad coach, right? And so I think there is a place for that. That's big. I wonder if that kind of broader way of operating will find its place. I don't know. It fits into coaching at the moment, but joining up modalities, I get the feeling it's coming, but who knows if it will be in my lifetime.
I think you're probably right. Or at least more and more people offering a joint up approach, an integrative approach.
Yeah.
So what about you then? What's next for you in your coaching practice? Obviously, you're working with your mentor about developing the next steps. What's it look like? Where are you going?
So they're always challenging me. So I have my NLP program for coaches. I've got to run that. So that's very much in the plan for next year. I get the sense that I'm hoping that the group space might open up a bit more. I don't know, like, that feels where I might go a bit, but perhaps not as big as I thought it could be. I don't know beyond that. I just don't know, but I also recognize within myself, coaching might become a part of what I do. there's an element, there's part within me that really wants to pursue something within art and textile art and that side of things. And so I might end up going on a journey of retraining as an artist at some point. And maybe that's just the next step. But it, like, not a, I see other artists up there, I'm like, no, like, seriously, it's more of a short course and a developmental, me experimenting kind of approach, as opposed to doing a 3-year course. That's probably not right for me. But it's probably looking at other things that I want to develop within myself that will then feed into the coaching practice.
Exciting times ahead. So you're thinking about, well, you say you're going to deliver the NLP training course. Maybe
hold me on that one.
You know, I've quoted you now, haven't I? This is going to be imprinted in the internet. Accountability.
Yeah, everyone's going to be like, so are you actually doing it this time? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it's had a few failed launches. And this is the thing, right? The experimentation thing is that sometimes you fall over, but I'm still feeling a calling to do it. So I'm saying next year. There's no reason for it not to happen.
Let's see. And also what I took from that is that you're in a position, or this career that you've got, or this practice that you have, is put you in a position to be able to have the conversation or the thought about retraining or adding to your artistic work that you've done. And I kind of noticed that, and you obviously trained me in one of the modules, and you had nice animations. And I think you used to say drawing was part of your practice as well, bringing some of that into it. So there's that part of you that's going to be developed, perhaps, or explored.
I think so. I think there's enough space for this stuff now.
Nice. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I got to say, you're very candid and honest about your personal journey. You were willing to have the inquiry. So I really appreciate all that insight that you gave.
My pleasure. I'm like, kind of there going, what have I said now? But you know what? I feel like sometimes it's useful to people to hear that it's not perfect. It's, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have the business that I absolutely want, but I keep making moves towards it.
Well, good luck with that. We'll put your website in the comments, and if anyone wants to reach out to you afterwards, they can check it out there. Anywhere else where people can find you, or perhaps look for this potential training program?
Keep an eye on the website. It will be up there hopefully in the next month or so. So we're talking, so late 2022, I'm sure it'll be up there.
Nice. Thank you, Nishe.
Thank you so much, Brinsley.